Patience than a tree grow. Got love that feels like a cheat code. No stress, no nothing heavy. We can stop time for the free throw. Got more patience than a tree grow. Got love that feels like a cheat code.
Wonderful. Welcome, friends, to the Ernest and Esther Weed Memorial Lecture here at Beacon Hill Friends House. My name is Jen Newman. I use she, her pronouns, and I am the executive director at Beacon Hill. I'm going to start us off with just a moment of settling silence to ground, and then I'm going to give some announcements and introduce Nova and hand things over. Let's start with just a moment of silence to ground and center and arrive here. Thank you, friends. Welcome. For folks who are on site and on Zoom, I have a technical announcement and a great celebration. We have a captioner whose name is Debbie, who is doing cart captioning for us. If you would like to enable closed captioning, you can do so on Zoom through your control bar. And for folks on site, you'll see them appearing on the screen in real time. This is a live person, not AI, who is giving our captions. And Debbie, folks in the room cheered for you. So now that that announcement is out of the way, I'd like to introduce, so folks, if you don't know what Beacon Hill Friends House is, we are a Quaker center for learning and action, as well as a residential community of about 20 people who live according to Quaker values. And Ernest and Esther Weed were directors who lived here and served as directors for 18 years. And this lecture is in their honor. But tonight, it's not tonight, it is 1:30 p.m. Eastern time. And if you're in California, it is the morning. This afternoon, we are delighted to have Nova George here. Nova is a dreamer, a wanderer, and poet with a deep interest in the Hebrew Bible and the way faith informs imaginings and realities with regards to community, belonging, and inclusion. Nova's eyes light up in conversation about the pedagogical impact of technology in classrooms, liberation theologies, Black literature as sacred text, and ritual and spiritual practice. You might find Nova lounging in a Brooklyn cafe, having a cup of herbal tea, singing to a tree in their backyard, or dreaming about the world they hope to co-create with all of you. With that said, welcome to our lecture, and I'm going to turn things over to Nova.
Thank you, Jen. It's always funny to hear my bio because I know I give my bio to folks, but I am like, I'm such a poet and a preschool teacher. Will always be true. Hello, my name is Nova. I am the child of Rochelle, who is the child of Eleanor, who is the child of Ellen, who moved to this country with a dream in her heart and, according to my mother, a song in her throat. I am also an artist, a dreamer, a person with a song to sing. I have the distinct honor of serving Friends General Conference as the conference and events coordinator, which is really new. I just got a new job. And I'm a member of Brooklyn Monthly Meeting. I'm also a teaching fellow at Union Theological Seminary, where I guide a group of amazing students in honing their questions and curiosities about the Hebrew Bible. I'm a facilitator and a spiritual accompanist, and I guarantee you, if you've experienced a feeling, I know a song that can help you get through it or lean into it, whatever you need. I am genderful, as in when given a choice between male and female, I choose creation. Trans, non-binary, I am full of gender of all kinds. I am queer, Black, disabled, a person of African ancestry. the specificity of my ethnic knowing is interrupted by the ongoing impact of settler colonialism and capitalism, by diaspora and the transatlantic slave trade. My maternal and paternal families of origin made a way out of no way through the enslavement project as it existed in the Bahamas, then moved to the ancestral and unceded lands of the Seminole and the Miccosukee, and now known as Miami, Florida. My father's a naturalized citizen of the United States through his participation in war, in the violence of war, and still is an agent of state violence as a police officer. I grapple with these things regularly, and I also hold them with tender care as I hold anything that teaches me more about what I believe in. Despite my distance from my own African indigeneity due to the violence of enslavement, I must acknowledge that I am still a voting, tax-paying citizen of the colonizing force that is the United States of America, which continues to participate in settler colonial projects and violence within what have been declared its borders, as well as around the world. I must also acknowledge my education level, as I have a master's degree in divinity. I have been educated in and therefore shaped by a number of white supremacist institutions and continue to strive to unlearn the parts of me that uphold and perpetuate white supremacy. As a poet and a musician, over time, I have learned that art serves as an antidote to the oppressive systems in this world. It is my hope that sharing the fullness of my multiplicities might encourage you and your creative and holistic reflection. I'd love you to also take a moment right now to introduce yourselves as well, but not necessarily to the person sitting next to you, because I just said a whole lot of heavy things. We're gonna play a little game of musical chairs. I'm gonna invite you to so that we can move a little bit, dance a little bit, and meet someone new in the space. And if you're on Zoom, you can also participate. You can dance a little bit and move a little bit and then answer the question as I prompt it from my pocket full of question cards. If I could get a little bit of tunes. Zoom folks, if you could share your responses in the chat if you'd like, so you can see each other's hellos and answers to the random question I'm going to pick from this question of cards. So as you are able, if you would stand up and just join me in a little dance and walk. When the music stops, you can find a friend and say hello, and I'll tell you the question.
I put my hand by yours so you know I wanna hold it. I say my prayers at night, but I know who controls it. I fallen hard for you, but I know I don't show it. I take your love for me, but I know I don't own it. It's not gonna be a big production. It's not butterflies or fireworks. Said it's gonna be a tiny garden, but I feed it every day. I feed it every day. I feed
Turn and face a friend.
every day. I need you every day.
And the question is going to be, say your name, and then say, how does silence support you? So say your name, and say, how does silence support you to the friend that you found on your dance?
Doesn't matter what you say, doesn't matter what your friends say. Something wrong with the pace. You fall in love every day now. Think of you when I wake up, premonition of fate. I put my flaws on display to scare you away. You put your feelings on hold. Winter came and it got cold. You wanna be sure that I'm sure that I want you, not just someone fun to do, someone to hold and zero below. You ask why I'm so cold. Iceberg heart, but look below. Iceberg heart, but look below. I'm sure it's not gonna be a big production. It's not fireworks. I said it's gonna be a tiny garden, but I feed it every day. I feed it every day. I feed it every day. Oh, I need you every day. I feed it every day. Oh, I want to every day. I feed it every day. Oh, I
Okay, I'm caught. Yeah, continue now. Thanks everyone. We wrap up your
life in the J down, yeah, it's alright. Much of the purpose we place multiplies.
Thanks, folks. Okay, is this better? Amazing. Amazing. Were the Zoom folks able to hear?
Yeah, we have one Zoom folks, Regina Renee, who in the chat said, hello, my name is Regina Renee Niagbe. Silence supports me in being slow to speak. Silence allows me to slow down mind, body, and spirit.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Regina Renee. For people who don't know, Regina Renee is the homie. Absolutely. Would anyone else like to share a response to the prompt, how does silence support you? Thank you so much for dancing with me. I will encourage you to dance throughout this presentation.
I'm going to encourage one more dance, and I'm going to switch the audio real fast.
Yes.
And then we can answer that question.
All right, amazing. One more dance.
Actually, just who wanted to speak?
Susanna.
Great, Susanna, you're going to speak, and then I'm going to switch the mics.
So this really was meaningful because in Meaning for Worship this morning, I was sitting there thinking about something that someone said this past year about how silence is perfect and you better have a really good reason to break it. So I guess it's not exactly answering the question, but that's what came to me.
I think it's a lovely answer. Thank you so much.
I love live solution finding, as I call it. Thank you so much for playing with me. And I wrote that in my notes too. Thanks for playing, friends. Okay, so to get started, now that you have a little bit of background about me, now that we know a little bit about what silence means to us, from folks in the room and some folks on Zoom, I'd love to talk to you a little bit about how I understand my Quaker practice and theology, and a little bit about embodied theology. Here we go. In 1984, Audre Lorde said the following in her legendary work, "The Master's Tools Will Never Dismantle the Master's House." Difference is that raw and powerful connection from which our personal power is forged. For Lorde, the absence of considerations of difference weakens us, especially in spaces where we are considering the intersections of what is personal and political, what is theory and practice, what is oppressive and liberatory. For Friends, difference is not a new topic. Quakers are vastly diverse. We have a number of theological perspectives, lived experiences, and ways we think about the divine, spirit, the universe, or however we choose to refer to or not refer to God. There are theist Quakers and non-theist Quakers. There are Quakers all over the world who are culturally different and politically different. We are geographically so far apart, and I don't know about you, but in most spaces I enter, I am the only Quaker in a room, which is why I'm so happy to be in rooms like this more often. Hey friends, capital F. What I am saying is that Quakers and Quaker foundational theology, to me, exemplifies the very power of difference that Lorde is talking about. Difference that has the potential to forge things from a place of not only personal, but in the case of Quakers, communal power. This power is conveyed not through participation in rituals of memorization or declaration of creed. This power is conveyed through the energy of our gathering, our choices to worship together in community where the laity has been abolished and we are all ministers in our own right. To put it as London Yearly Meeting does in their Book of Discipline, to be without an ordained clergy is not to be without leadership or ministry. The gifts of the Spirit include both. The tune of my ministry has been varied over my life, but the mystery of faith has always had and held my deepest interest. I memorized Bible trivia as a kid and could recite psalms and prayers and recall verses. I even read the Bible in study groups with other teens, and we took it very seriously, shaping and forming opinions of texts from Genesis to Ephesians. I lived and breathed my faith, but in ways it felt so confined to my head, to intellectualizing. Every sermon I listened to was more information to sift through, to make sense of. Every week, a new set of words to think about. I became well practiced in maintaining the connection between my head and my heart when it came to faith. But Spirit has a way of guiding you to the lessons that you need. And what I needed was to get out of my mind and into my body. In preparation for this lecture, I looked into past presentations, and I had the immense pleasure of watching last year's lecture with Dwight, who I think some of you know, and in conversation with Eva, who you might also know, who I think is on Zoom right now. Hi, I keep forgetting the camera's here. They spoke about moving Quaker practice from the head to the hands, and that really struck me. Okay. So I've mentioned to you that I am a Bible instructor. And one of the things that I love to watch people learn is that the Bible's not a single story. It's not a single story written by a single author. It's a collection of stories built upon by many scribes in community. And it was compiled over time and takes inspiration from a diverse array of sources and ancient cultures. One of the strengths of the biblical text for me is that it even repurposes itself and learns from itself at times, you can see the shifts in theology that occur as you look through different stories in the Bible, depending on the context. Theologies centering a chosen people are mere pages away from theologies centering a promised land. Prophetic literature rooted in social responsibility conflicts with prophecy rooted in spiritual responsibility and like fidelity to God. And to reference my favorite author, Zora Neale Hurston, there are Bible verses that ask questions and Bible verses that answer. All this to say, this lecture, like the tradition of community-informed biblical study, hopes to build upon previous questions of the pursuit of Quaker values, imagination, and the movement of Quaker theology from the head to the hands. An embodied Quaker theology of music is a theology of play and creativity, a theology that prays full-throated and whose vibration transforms all it touches. This lecture, like me, like Quakers, it's a little bit different, perhaps even peculiar. My differences inform the way I strive to practice my Quakerism. They are the tonic, the root of the collection of notes that make up the chord that I am. You're gonna get music puns all day. Sorry, not sorry. They inform the way I present, which is a little more workshoppy and more like a classroom, like mostly like a preschool classroom. That's where I learned how to be a teacher. And so I'd love to ask for your participation in another little musical activity. It kind of brings together my way of doing Bible study and my just love of music. And I'd love to invite you to open your hearts to one of my favorite songs, written by Jamila Woods from her album Legacy. The song Zora, named after my favorite author, is inspired by and named for the iconic Zora Neale Hurston. Though neither Woods nor Hurston are Quaker, there are a number of moments in this song which allow me to think deeply about Quaker testimony. And as you listen, I'd like you to notice what rises up for you. Can you find some connection, some link to your own Quaker testimony or thought? I'd love, Jen, the words up here. Thank you so much. And feel free to dance if you're led.
Must be disconcerting how I discombobulate. I've always been the only, every classroom, every home. Kiss of chocolate on the moon, collard greens and silver spoon. Little boxes on the hillside, little boxes, they can stick onto me. My weaponry is my energy. I tenderly feel my enemies with white light. You will never know everything, everything. I will never know everything, everything. You will never know everything, everything. And you don't know me, so you up the street. You will never know everything, everything. I will never know everything, everything. You will never know everything, everything. And you don't know me. Couldn't possibly. Disconcerting how I discombobulate. I've always been the only. You're so unoriginal. Your words don't leave scars. Believe me, I've heard them all. I may be small, I may speak soft, but you can see the change in the water. Couldn't possibly.
I would love if folks have feedback or like notice anything that you want to talk about. I would love to hear in responses to that song. What did you notice? How might this song connect to your understanding of your Quaker practice? And I'd love to hear from Zoom folks as well. Yeah, go ahead. Do we have a mic to pass around?
No, actually, you can just.
Oh, you can just talk.
Be able to speak.
Yeah,
Just talk.
Just talk.
Okay.
Ben.
Well, I guess I'm just extreme of consciousness here. What I'm listening to the sense of inquiry, the sense of opening to uncertainty, and the sense of there always being more.
That sounds like continuing revelation to me. Thank you, Ben. Anyone else?
The first verse, and then you'll never know everything. You'll never know me. You'll never know everything. There's like a humility in that, and an understanding that there's always more to learn.
Yeah, thank you.
Beautiful song.
Thank you.
Someone from the Zoom chat, Diane, shared, "We cannot know everything, tells me that our knowledge is collaborative."
Was that Diane?
Diane.
Diane. Okay. Thank you, Diane. Oh, just collaborative.
I was kind of reminded of something I was thinking about yesterday, which is when I was younger, like especially like when I was in my freshman year of college, I'd speak so confidently about things I like literally knew nothing about. But like now when I know so much more about those things, I'm like, I know I don't know like a million other things about that thing, but it's like speaks to me a little bit about like the hubris of like not knowing. But like when you do know more, you kind of have humility around that. But I don't actually know so many things around this. I know I don't know everything.
How curiosity, it sounds like curiosity, it leads you to understand the vastness of something.
Yeah.
That's one of my things I repeat to myself often is the only thing I know is I know nothing.
Eva and Amelia on Zoom say, "The well of power / energy that comes from knowing plus loving yourself deeply."
Energy that comes from knowing / loving yourself deeply. That's a well that I would drink from. Thank you. Room for one more comment or noticing?
Just that one thing I know, it is enough to change everything. Changes the water, and that just I like that idea of as a description of the spirit.
That line, that lyric, "I may be small, I may speak soft, but you can see the change in the water." That to me has always jumped out as incredibly Quaker. And I think that that's one of the most beautiful lines in the song. Thank you so much for lifting that up. And thank you for doing that activity with me, friends. I really noticed that when I invite music into a conversation as a text, it draws so many different things out and it allows folks to engage in a way where you're feeling it a little differently. Music does something. I can't put words to it, it's a mystery, but I do appreciate it. Thank you so much. And now concerning my musical identity, it's so wild. I'm a classically trained mezzo-soprano, and side story that I didn't know if I was going to share. I'm going to share it. I once had a choir director move me from alto to soprano, depending on what the choir needed to sound vocally balanced. So in addition to just being a queer person, I also queer voice part. I really cheekily identify myself as bisexual in choirs. So I'm a mezzo-soprano. I've had the immense privilege of singing in many beautiful spaces and in many beautiful music communities all over, including the historic Coconut Grove Playhouse in Miami, Florida, gorgeous Old South Church here in Boston, actually. And if you've not attended Mount Holyoke College, my alma mater's Vespers concert, it's a treat, not just because I was in it when I was in Glee Club, but because it's really a treat. It's beautiful. I mean, I even like sang at Lincoln Center in Toshi Reagan's Parable of the Sower opera community chorus. Music became a part of my faith experience because I learned how to sing in the way that many children do, by listening. My grandmother used to pick me up from my church's kindergarten almost every day, and we would listen to music in the car on the way home. And each day that I rode in her car, she'd like play a cassette tape or the radio, and we would sing together. And sometimes faith-based music, but more often secular music, sang as though it were holy. So that's what I grew up to believe. My grandmother sang, Call Tyrone by Erykah Badu with the same power and dedication with which she sang Swing Low, Sweet Chariot in the pews of Sweet Home Church, where she went to church. She sang the blues into spirituals and spirituals into the blues. And that is the greatest power that I can imagine. The power of transformation, all generated by the depth of her presence and her persistent practice. But my grandmother didn't sing because she wanted to be a singer. She sang because it's what moved, especially when she couldn't wrap her head around something that had happened to her or around her. This is the heart of what I would call an embodied theology. And I will assert, and I will continue to assert, that embodied theology is radical theology for Quakerism. And when I say radical, I mean the very root of it, that which springs from what was planted by George Fox in the 17th century. And we will get to George Fox in a little bit soon enough. But first of all, I'm going to say a little more about what theology means to me in general. So the very Reverend Dr. Kelly Brown Douglas, a former teacher and a force in modern theology, often quotes Anselm when defining theology to students in an introductory course. Theology, she quotes, is faith seeking understanding. Now, my desire to seek understanding came early. I was a cradle Episcopalian who learned at faith-based schools. I was born into and shaped by a world that included maintaining a relationship with spirit at its very core. I was raised at the intersection of theological theory and practice, active in youth group, active in social justice and youth-led community organizing. And my theologies have grown, shifted, and revealed themselves with time. My theology has become a many-layered thing, a round, if you will, musically. Thank you, appreciate the giggle. When I reflect on what faith-seeking understanding means to me as the young adult friend I am now, I cannot help but think about George Fox in the moment he was convinced, in the moment he writes about in that reflection in the journal. And as a convinced friend, the first time I encountered his reflection on this moment via my favorite edition of Faith and Practice, written yearly meeting. It's on the internet, it's searchable, it's wonderful. It was way opening, and I'd like to read to you the part that kind of stuck out to me most of all. Now, after I had received that opening from the Lord, that to be bred at Oxford or Cambridge was not sufficient to fit a man to be a minister of Christ, I regarded the priests less and looked after the dissenting people. As I had forsaken all the priests, so I left the separate preachers also, and those called the most experienced people, for I saw there was none among them that could speak to my condition. All right, secret time. I have a secret to tell you, friends. I am an emo kid in my origins. So when I read the words dissenting people and none among them could speak to my condition, I am transported back to middle school, to smoky black eyeliner, to back when I had bangs, to Panic at the Disco. This excerpt really brings me to life, if you will. That's Evanescence. George Fox is describing something so real to me. something that I think we've all had to navigate. He's describing and noticing a realization that that specific education isn't necessarily what makes a minister, which I must admit actually activates like a little bit of like ouch in me as a person who just finished a very expensive seminary degree. But it is this noticing that allows him to open his heart to look after whom? The dissenting people. Yes, growing up, I definitely identified as a dissenting people. I blasted Simple Plan and Paramore, and I would be remiss if I did not mention my deep love for any band that raged, Fall Out Boy, all of it. For me, these artists spoke to my condition, or at least the part of it that really needed a voice, a way to be realized, so that the isolation and despair that accompanied carrying dissent with me might be released. George Fox describes this despair as he continues. And when all my hopes in them and in all men were gone, so that I had nothing outwardly to help me, nor could tell them what to do, then, oh then, I heard a voice which said, there is one, even Christ Jesus, that can speak to thy condition. And when I heard it, my heart did leap for joy. Then the Lord did let me see why there was none upon the earth that could speak to my condition, namely, that I might give him all the glory, that Christ Jesus might have the preeminence who enlightens, gives grace, faith, and power. Thus, when God doth work, who shall let it? And this I knew experimentally. What an experience to hear a voice that speaks to the thing you've held on your heart so clearly that it leaps for joy. For Fox, the voice calls upon him to remember Christ. And now, if you have an interest in the theology of salvation or Christology, we can have a conversation later. Like, I think that lots of Quakers have released salvation theology at this point. I have other theological education, so I can speak about that another time. But the thing I want to get into is the idea that for Fox, Jesus was the thing that spoke to his condition, his story, life, death, resurrection. Jesus represents an embodied theology in that way, gives life to divinity, and allows Fox to bear witness to the work of God in his own experience. This line became a refrain for me, and this I knew experimentally. And this I knew experimentally. The truth I understand, that is a living, breathing thing inside of my bones, that is set ablaze by George Fox's reflection, is there is something about that embodiment that fuels a theological perspective, my theological perspective. Something about it enlightens and opens way to allow room for grace, faith, power, the embodied practice of art and creativity, specifically for me, music making, poetry making, has become a pathway for spirit to do its work in me and through me. Music is powerful. It changes those who listen to it, sing it, make it, feel it. Music is a conversation between the divine and the artist and the experiencer and the divine. It's a conversation I love to engage in. I love to engage you in. And so maybe you too might find space to participate, not only in an embodied theology, but a theology of liberatory proportions. Yeah, I love music. Wow. Okay. Before I was certain of my Quaker convincement, I took some time to reflect upon the choice, a lot of time. And a big reason for this was my experience being, as Jamila Woods writes in the lyrics to Zora, the only, every classroom, every home. I've been the only a lot. And it's no secret that many friend spaces in the US are incredibly white spaces. When I was choosing Quakerism, this was at the forefront of my mind. And in preparing for this lecture, I considered the ways that exclusion and othering are enacted upon folks in this world, and reflected upon the ways artists and writers like Audre Lorde, Zora Neale Hurston, and Jamila Woods, they engage with that. They engage with that exclusion. I think one of the ways they do that is by being very genre fluid, active in the secular and spiritual worlds, in their poems, books, lyrics, song structure, and melodies. They use their platforms and their art to not only share what's beautiful, but share their noticings to speak to their condition and the condition of others, and especially others who might be suffering, the dissenting people. This brings me to something that I would be remiss if I did not say something while I have the space and time to address friends publicly. There is, in this moment in history, a grave injustice occurring in Palestine. I cannot begin to speak about a theology which includes music and play, which strives to undo oppression and serve as an antidote to the destructive forces in this world, and not say that Palestinians, like every group, community, and people in our global community, deserve to live. I will repeat, George Fox wrote in his record of his own revelation, I regarded the priest less and looked more after the dissenting people. I would like to hold space for just 5 minutes of worship with a concern for all who are suffering as a result of forced exile and other acts of state-sanctioned violence. And we're going to end the worship with a song, Jen and I let you know.
Bismillah, like the feeling when I miss Falah, then wish to God and clouds to lift us all. Alhamdulillah, I wonder if BB can ever see me, and if I go back to Basra, will it ever receive me? Bismillah, homies that have the time to talk. Now I wish for stars that angels find no off. Alhamdulillah, I stand order the strength of my sister, kiss her and thank God. Our mission is planned for. Bismillah, Mamati, Inti Hayati, Mom the best one, hold her close to heart like my left. Alhamdulillah, for the truth in the being is beaming as the moon queen. You bless my future to be with. Bismillah, for the soul's anguish, love, and the moment my brothers program these drums. Alhamdulillah, we put the truth to the test, proof that we bless students of this music at best. It goes. Way before militants try to split this law. Alhamdulillah, for every living day that we spent in the rays of the Shams, while we praise the condemned. Bismillah, wish I could take it back and lift the harm, make a track, erase the past that we missing. Alhamdulillah, he spoke so right, we listen wrong, living raw, more than a living song. Give it Bismillah, so I don't rely on an image or man-made divisions for land, slave, prison. Alhamdulillah, excuse me if I use it loosely, forget to bow down and pray. How proud are they? Hope you hear the whispers, then ask which stance should I sway, betray my whispers. Alhamdulillah, forever hope this lasts and we live class. Name without a ball and a chain, a slave fall in a claim. Bismillah, we're forever holding the peace. Wicked streets, crippled little beams rippling through the Middle East. Alhamdulillah, may God bless the dead and gone, forever strong, a better song, breaking bitter bonds. Alhamdulillah, for this world and this spot, to this song with these words for hip hop. Say Alhamdulillah, stay humble when rhymes for eyes, hate your hunger. It's like a jungle sometimes that makes you wonder.
Centering music. Hello. Centering music as a theological starting point is a great experiment in challenging ourselves to engage our faith as it is revealed through intentional contemplation of art, especially the art of the dissenting people. The lyrics to Zora are lyrics that express dissent. They challenge the listener to consider what they know by reminding them that not only do they not know everything, they will not know everything. The lyrics to Alhamdulillah also express dissent. They depict the struggle of a people who continue to experience violence in this world for simply being where they have been. Alhamdulillah means praise to God in Arabic. And I don't know that there's anything that speaks more clearly to George Fox's revelation than the balance of the verse and choruses of this song. Written in 2009, it is in ways a protest song, a love song, and an inspirational song all wrapped up into one auditory experience. The first time I heard it, I cried because in lyric and melody, I felt the pain and the anguish and despair, but in Shadi's voice, she's a Palestinian vocalist, I also felt the hope. I also felt the faith. I also felt the perseverance. And though her experience is not mine, my experience of her voice allowed me to know something experimentally, and that is the power of a song. That is the power of a song. Ooh. If folks are feeling so led, I am feeling led to like do a little shakeout. So if you would like to stand, I don't know if you've ever played theater games, but a shakeout is when you kind of like in an intentional way, kind of shake your body out. And so you go 8, 4, 2, 1. And then you like shake hand, foot, and then your butt. Okay. So it goes like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 1, 1, 1. And yeah, that's like how that's one way you can kind of reset yourself. I like to do that sometimes. Thank you for doing that with me. Oh, we're coming up on the final stretch. In addition to being a place where an artist can express and embody the energy of their descent, music is also a place of communal empowerment. In the space of not knowing, music can become a co-creation in which a community of presence and practice can produce knowing together. So your response about communal knowing was really like spot on for me. Thank you. I think it came from over here. I think it was you.
It was not me.
It was not me who said communal knowing in the beginning.
I think it would have been someone else.
Oh, okay. I thought it was. All right. Sorry. Right. Communities of practice and presence. When I say communities of practice and presence, I'm referring to places and spaces where one might encounter the most sacred of songs, belonging. In Belonging, a culture of place, Appalachian scholar and social theorist Bell Hooks, may she rest in power, writes, I dreamed about a culture of belonging. I still dream that dream. I contemplate what our lives would be like if we knew how to cultivate awareness, to live mindfully, peacefully, if we learned habits of being that would bring us closer together, that would help us build beloved community. And I'd like to allow this little community we're co-creating to do something right now together. And I don't want you to be nervous, but it is a singing game. So if folks are ready for a singing game, I'm excited. A little bit about it. When I was a student at Mount Holyoke, I joined an a cappella group. I was a member of an a cappella group. And what's fun about a cappella is that it teaches you as a vocalist to use your voice as the truest of instruments. And I would argue that even though I've been a singer for a long time, it wasn't until I started singing a cappella that I thought of my voice truly as an instrument capable of extraordinary things. And so the activity today is called a vocal jam. And when we vocal jam, we only have a few guidelines. The first is to listen. There is an advice in Britain's Faith and Practice which says, all of us need to find a way into silence, which allows us to deepen our awareness of the divine and to find the inward source of our strength. Seek to know an inward stillness, even amid the activities of daily life. And in a good vocal jam, we find our way into song, which might allow us to deepen our awareness of one another and perhaps reveal a little bit, not only about the stillness inside of us, but about the song inside of us as well. The second guideline here is to be flexible. A vocal jam is about contributing to a communal improvisation in a way that is unique, but it's also about noticing what's working for you and adding your voice to that. So if you hear something that you like somebody else is doing, you're allowed to hop on. And you're also allowed to lay things down that you don't like, just like we lay down our ministries and our commitments and our committees. We can lay down that too. And the final guideline is just to have fun feeling it. Let yourself get into your body and your voice. You can dance, you can clap, you can beatbox if you are so led. You are a part of a many-voiced choir. You are a powerful creator, so let's make something. And if there is, then Zoom folks are absolutely able to contribute too. You can dance, you can clap, if it works for them to sing. I don't know how it will work. I've never done it before. But you can absolutely dance and clap or sing to yourself on mute. Yeah. But if I can start it, if one person here feels inclined to like give a little melody, a little like boop, 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 boop. And that's how you kind of, you pick a little simple thing and then people can add on. So I'll keep with that. Yeah. Ooh. Boop, 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 boop. Oh, thanks, y'all. That was cute. Does that make sense as an activity? I would love someone else to try to start one, because I would love to be a person to jump in instead of to start it. If someone feels bold, if someone feels like initiated. Maybe something that we don't know for sure. Maybe there's something, an original. Hey, let's go. Thank you for that. How'd that feel? Yeah. Any noticings? Anything you like observed in your mind, body, heart, spirits?
Well, I've never been in a chorus, but it's fun to really listen. I mean, I do play music, but I don't sing. So it's fun to really listen to people and try to find where your note would land.
Yeah, find your fit.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I had an urge
Mhm.
to break out. And I wanted to do things that I felt would break rules. I didn't go as far as I wanted. I sensed that I was leaning towards, okay, there were things that felt like rhythm and beat and tonality and tune. And I was thinking, what would happen if I didn't match the beat? What would happen? And I wasn't so much in my mind. It was like, oh, it would be great to curve and just bend. And no tune, no everything crashed. But I didn't.
A little dissonance, a little
Great
chaos beyond dissonance.
A great deal.
Thank you, Ben.
Someone on Zoom?
Yeah.
Dion wrote in the chat. That collective singing exercise seems to me a metaphor for meeting. While we are not toning out loud, we are bringing our silences together.
Thank you, Dan. Yeah, when I think about what a vocal jam is, I absolutely think about it as the other face of meeting for worship. It is intentionally adding to a silence in ways that really center listening and being together. And that to me is what, I'm so off book right now, and that to me is what being a community of practice and presence is about, embodied in another way, in a musical way. So yeah, I do think of vocal jams a way of doing that. Yeah, for sure.
I feel like it kind of didn't matter what each of us individually was doing because collectively we made a beautiful sound. And it kind of felt like a metaphor to me about like community, about you can show up as yourself and it doesn't matter like flaws and all because everyone else compliments you and like will hold you no matter who you are.
Exactly. And that is what presence does. And that's what practice does. When you've practiced and been present to one another in a way that is intentional, then there's all of this room. And I do think that things like creative play allow us to get in touch with practice and presence in ways that other things might be a little harder to get there. Musical play especially, and again, I was a preschool teacher, and so this is greatly informed by all of that, but musical play really, really does make a difference in how we can show up to one another as a community. So for years, friends have discussed the importance of beloved community, and reflections on belonging are deeply intertwined with that idea. For me, we've held conferences on beloved community and belonging. The Quaker Institute was themed beloved community as prophetic witness last year for folks who attended. And this tells me that, like myself, other 21st century friends are seeking that culture of belonging that Bell Hooks describes. But how do we co-create it? How do we take theories and theologies and allow them to become alive, spirited? For me, music, especially as collective experience and co-creation, is a way. Art and creativity practices not only have the potential to hone a sense of belonging for a group, they also have the potential to allow for an outsider to become an insider through a shared experience of joy, co-creation, and fun. I think that in terms of time, it's like 2:40, and I would love to, I over-prepared, which I'm really glad to say. So I would love to invite you to one last activity. And this is really it's my heart right now. So one of my favorite forms of play, and some of you might have experienced this at a retreat or conference with me. One thing that I'm gonna do is host karaoke. I attend karaoke events all around Brooklyn. When I travel, I actively seek out karaoke. And I think it's one of the most friendly experiences that you could possibly do besides go get ice cream. It's almost like a meeting for worship gets turned over on its head. And what I mean by that is because silence is a foundation for Quaker worship, that collective singing that can happen at karaoke is really similar to that divine encounter, like we discussed, because we're choosing to decorate silence. Jean-Michel Basquiat says, art is how we decorate space, music is how we decorate time. And so the time together in silence is being decorated by our voices in experiences like a vocal jam or karaoke. And so my favorite karaoke song, which I would love to ask Jen to put up on the screen, is by Desiree. And it is called You Gotta Be. And I would love to invite you all to sing it with me. I think it's just one of the most sacred and beautiful texts that I have ever heard. And then we can do some questions and have a little reception. Thank you so much for being with me.
Listen as your day unfolds, challenge what the future holds. Try and keep your head up to the sky. Lovers, they may cause you tears. Go ahead, release your fears. Stand up and be counted, don't be ashamed to cry. You gotta be bad, you gotta be bold, you gotta be wiser. You gotta be hard, you gotta be tough, you gotta be stronger. You gotta be cool, you gotta be calm, you gotta stay together. All I know, love will save the day. Herald what your mother said, read the books your father read, trying to solve the puzzles in your own sweet time. Some may have more cash than you, others take a different view. My, oh my, yeah, yeah. You gotta be bad, you gotta be bold, you gotta be wiser. You gotta be hard, you gotta be tough, you gotta be stronger. You gotta be cool, you gotta be calm, you gotta stay together. All I know, love will save the day. Time asks no questions, it goes on without you, leaving you behind if you can stand the pace. The world keeps on spinning, can't stop it if you try to. The best part is danger staring you in the face. Whoa. Remember, listen as your day unfolds. Challenge what the future holds. Try to keep your head up to the sky. Lovers, they may cause you tears. Go ahead, release your fears. My, oh my, eh, eh, eh. You gotta be bad, you gotta be bold, you gotta be wiser. You gotta be hard, you gotta be tough, you gotta be stronger. You gotta be cool, you gotta be calm, you gotta stay together. All I know, love will save the day. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You gotta be bad, you gotta be bold, you gotta be wiser. You gotta be hard, you gotta be tough, you gotta be stronger. You gotta be cool, you gotta be calm, you gotta stay together. All I know, love will save the day. Got to be bold, got to be bad, got to be wise, don't ever sad. Got to be hard, not too hard. All I know is love will save the day. You gotta be bad, you gotta be bold, you gotta be wiser. You gotta be hard, you gotta be tough, you gotta be stronger. You gotta be cool, you gotta be calm, you gotta stay together. You gotta be bad, you gotta be bold, you gotta be wiser. You gotta be hard, you gotta be tough.
I'm in awe of the way it has taught me to know experimentally. For me, music has become a place for love to expand and transform in a world where oppression, anti-Blackness, anti-Semitism, and Islamophobia is so pervasive, where war is so common, where people hunger and live unhoused, where we are witnessing genocide unfold, where we and our neighbors enact oppression and harm as a result of harm and pain we've experienced historically. I feel really helpless sometimes. And the work of artists, writers, theologians, and friends challenges that helplessness. Making music and playing in the space of song, worshiping in silence, challenge that helplessness. For that, I have immense gratitude. I will never know everything, but I do know that heeding the words of George Fox, Audre Lorde, Bell Hooks, Zora Neale Hurston, and others, living my faith from a place of thinking to a place of loving action, from my head to my hands, rooted in the service of those who are dissenting. I know that moving in that way might just make space for transformation. And by taking a chance at creativity, play, and music, taking a chance and noticing difference and living into our difference might even allow us to make a little harmony along the way. And that's it for me, friends. Thank you so much for joining, and thank you for lending me your eyes, ears, and taking in what I have to offer. If you want to follow my work, all of my social medias are Nova the Friend. And my Substack is called Theologically Sound. I am open to questions about things, you know, music, Bible, what I had for breakfast, whatever. And thanks for flowing with me.
Thank you so much, Nova. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Nova. For friends who are on Zoom, that's the end of our program this afternoon. And for folks who are on site, we welcome additional fellowship time and questions in our courtyard. There will be some snacks and some tea available for you there. And friends on Zoom, you're welcome to unmute now and share if you would like to.
Thank you, Nova. Thank you.
Thank you, Nova. Can I ask a question, actually?
Yeah, sure. Can you hear us, Eva?
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Hi. First of all, thank you for just for all that you are and all the gifts that you bring into the world. And it's been such a joy to be with you and learn from you, even from afar. My question is more of a like, what did you have for breakfast question? But it's what's something that's bringing you joy today, Nova?
Today I had a really good falafel sandwich down the street, and honestly, and rosemary French fries. I was really blown away by how delicious, and everything in that restaurant was vegetarian, so I didn't even have to worry about like ordering something that wasn't vegetarian accidentally. Not that I'm 100% vegetarian, it was just very exciting. It's great to see you, Eva.
Well, thank you, friends. If other folks on Zoom want to say hi, you can, and I'll close out the meeting shortly. And Lahari just went to grab the snacks. I love snacks. Thank you so much, and thank you to our captioner, Debbie. Thank you, Debbie. Thank you so much, Debbie. Hi. Hi, Greg.
Hi, Nova. Thank you, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.